Have something to celebrate? Think Whole Foods Market. From weddings to baby showers, graduations to birthdays, Whole Foods Market has what you need to make your event more delicious. Like animal welfare certified meat, a huge selection of adult beverages, frozen desserts, salty snacks, and more. Make the guest of honor feel special with beautiful Source for Good flowers. Or perhaps that berry chantilly cake everyone's raving about. Start the celebration at Whole Foods Market. They cater too.
What are some of the most important parts of your body? Maybe your answer is the brain, or our muscles, or even the skin that holds us all together. Perhaps you thought of the trillions of nerves running through us, but odds are you overlooked one crucial aspect to our health, the adrenal glands.
Our adrenal glands are our main stress glands, and they're responsible for producing a variety of hormones in our body. Most specifically, cortisol, our stress hormone, is produced by our adrenal glands in response to stress.
That's Dr. Izabella Wentz, a thyroid specialist and author of Adrenal Transformation Protocol, a 4-week plan to release stress symptoms and go from surviving to thriving. While cortisol has recently gained popularity on social media for being the cause of weight gain, the hormone is actually quite helpful.
When we have it in just the right amounts, we do need it for survival and for thriving. Then we have good brain function and our immune system is in check and our body can repair itself. So we do want some, we just don't want way too much of it. Generally, we want to have a good cortisol secretion. So we want to have high cortisol in the morning, not too high. There's kind of this optimal range where it's, if you could picture a slide where you're at the top of the slide in the morning. This high level of cortisol is going to make sure that we are present, that our brain is awake, that our body's awake, and that we're feeling good.
Cortisol has anti-inflammatory properties, which, when released in the right amount, we wake up feeling refreshed and pain-free. As the day goes on, our cortisol levels gradually decline until we're ready for bed and can easily fall asleep.
It's a circadian hormone that gets released in times of stress. And with a healthy person in that healthy pattern, it'll be in that way. In times of acute stress, when we are feeling threatened, so, you hear about the people that lift cars because there's a child underneath that, or all of a sudden they get super strength because they're being chased by something, right? Or they climb a tree and they're being chased by a bear. And it's like, I didn't even know I could climb trees. And so this is cortisol when it's released in high amounts. And this can be life-saving, right? When we're faced with a threat. And this can be a big, big driver to help us survive.
The problems start when our body gets stuck in that survival mode. Our adrenal glands continue to produce cortisol even though there's no need for it, causing numerous issues that include muscle weakness and weight gain. However, Wentz says that having too little cortisol is just as bad.
Especially for people with chronic fatigue syndrome, fatigue symptoms, having trouble waking up in the morning, brain fog, and irritability and anxiety and overwhelm throughout the day. And then people can also have cortisol in the right amounts, but perhaps it's not secreted at the right times of day. So if you don't have enough morning cortisol, then you're going to be tired. And if you have too much cortisol at nighttime, then you might have trouble falling asleep and have unrefreshed sleep and middle of the night wakings.
Wentz says that this cortisol imbalance is caused by adrenal dysfunction. It occurs when our adrenal glands can't properly communicate with our brain.
Typically, in healthy individuals, the brain, the hypothalamus, and the pituitary will sense stress, and then they'll send hormone signals to the body to make cortisol. And if this stress goes on for too long and we get stuck in a chronic stress cycle, then the pathway kind of gets broken down and the receptors get desensitized. And eventually, the pathway will get broken down to a point where the body may still sense the stress, but it still doesn't release cortisol in the right amounts throughout the day.
The most common signs of adrenal dysfunction are fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and anxiety. Physical pain can also occur, along with trouble falling asleep at night.
Typically, people will tell me that they crave sugar, they crave salt, they are dependent on caffeine to get going. They might be people that are dependent on wine to wind down in the evenings to help them fall asleep. And some of the physical signs are if you stand up too quickly and you feel faint, if you get easily startled, if you're somebody that's sensitive to loud noises and sensitive to bright lights.
All of these are signs that your body is stuck in a survival state. Wentz says higher stress levels can start after just one bad night of sleep, but adrenal dysfunction occurs if that heightened stress cycle continues for weeks.
Just to clarify, it's not like a disease. This is the body's adaptation to stress. This happens when the body's overwhelmed with stress.
And it's an incredibly common disorder, particularly in people with depression, heart disease, and fibromyalgia. However, Wentz says that in many cases, it's often left undiagnosed.
So people may be walking around without a diagnosis, and they will say, like, I just feel bad and off and anxious. Another symptom is gaining weight, especially in the stomach area, in that midline section. And they'll say, like, why do I feel like this? But it's so common that I feel like now doctors are almost saying that it's normal from a conventional medical standpoint. Doctors that aren't focusing on lifestyle medicine, it's almost like, oh, this is the new normal. But really, we shouldn't be walking around like this. We shouldn't be walking around edgy all the time. We should be able to feel present and full of energy with great brain function and be able to fall asleep easily at night and feel refreshed and be calm and powerful and strong.
Wentz says that the dysfunction can stem from a couple moments of incredibly high stress or small frustrations that compound on each other until one day it becomes too much for our bodies to handle.
The stressors of modern life can also put us there. So it's like constantly being on the go, having a super busy schedule, burning the candle at both ends, not getting enough sleep, under-eating, over-exercising, eating foods that are inflammatory to us, eating too much sugar and too much food that drives up our blood sugar response.
Not to mention the hidden sources of stress, like an illness or infection our body has to fight off.
And people, in my experience, shift in this state into that survival state where there's just either like one huge stress message or just a bunch of little stress messages, and their body gets the overall message that we're in a war or a famine or survival, and the body shifts into conservation of resources. So our metabolism slows and we tend to gain weight, and our functions, like our body stops repairing itself. It actually starts to break itself down to fuel this stress response.
With all of our energy managing this response, we're left without any to help our muscles recover from exercise or our minds from socializing. Since the signs of adrenal dysfunction are all over the board, Wentz says medical professionals tend to focus on fixing the symptoms instead of the dysfunction.
And so modern medicine sort of uses a Band-Aid approach to the symptoms that you might be present. You're gaining some weight, let's try some Ozempic, right? Or you have brain fog or fatigue, we're going to give you some ADHD medication. And so this is kind of the approach to modern medicine, where they will identify a symptom and give you a Band-Aid for it.
Instead, Wentz says lifestyle changes are the best option for fixing the underlying condition, which is adrenal dysfunction.
With the lifestyle approach, we're really working on connecting the body's stress response so that the body can get back into balance. We're letting the body know that it's not in a threatening situation. We're telling the body there's no bear chasing us right now. And we do this through messages that the body can understand. So the body can shift back into this healthy cortisol pattern, right? And so we're not releasing too much of it. We don't have a deficiency in it. We're not bouncing all over the place.
After just a few weeks of lifestyle changes, Wentz says we can get our bodies back on track. One of the strategies she outlines in her book aims to balance our blood sugar by increasing the amount of protein we consume.
So generally, people that are in this stress response, they've been breaking their body down for a while. And so we need to give the body more amino acids in the sense of protein so we can build the body back up. Amino acids are our building blocks, and getting more protein in our system is going to be incredibly helpful. We need more fat, and I do recommend good fats than most people are getting, because fats are incredibly helpful for supporting our mitochondria. Whenever we're in this chronic fatigue state, this adrenal dysfunction, our mitochondria is going to be affected as well.
The next step is to cut out inflammatory foods from your diet. Inflammation is a signal of stress in your body and triggers cortisol to be released. So limiting that will reduce the stress response.
One of the easiest ways to reduce this is getting off of like gluten, dairy, and soy, which are the most commonly inflammatory foods in people who are sensitive to them. So that's a big part of my recommendation. Eating a nutrient-dense diet can be very helpful. One of the things that can be great for people is a smoothie that I recommend, the Adrenal Kickstart smoothie. This is orange juice with some protein powder, coconut milk, and electrolytes. This is going to be incredibly replenishing first thing in the morning. This is going to help your brain and body wake up and to keep you blood sugar stable throughout the day because of the protein and fat component.
Other nutrients that are depleted during adrenal dysfunction are vitamin C, vitamin E, and magnesium.
For many people, just getting these nutrients on board, they'll say, I feel human again. I can, B vitamins are so important for energy production. So getting on some B complex, generally higher doses than what you would get in a multivitamin, this can be helpful for your energy production. P5P, or the vitamin B6, is helpful for producing our neurotransmitters. So people will feel more calm when they utilize that, and they'll be able to fall asleep easier at night. Then magnesium has been tied to so many different pathways in the body. We typically will say I think 300 plus, but in my experience, the big symptoms that respond to magnesium are going to be anxiety, pain in the body, trouble falling asleep, and cramps, especially menstrual cramps.
Wentz recommends taking a magnesium supplement or an Epsom salt bath to replenish our body's reserves. Her book, Adrenal Transformation Protocol, is available now wherever books are sold. You can find more information about Dr. Izabella Wentz and all of our guests on radiohealthjournal.org. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farah. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. I'm Elizabeth Westfield. This segment is brought to you by Capital One. With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One, N.A., member FDIC.
Coming up, a deeper look into obesity and medical weight loss when Radio Health Journal returns.
Coming up next week on Radio Health Journal.
They helped us with everything. She was 7 years old and had to take about 20 to 30 pills a day and didn't know how to swallow pills. So they helped us manage that process.
Children's hospitals do a lot more than cure diseases.
Then pickleball is taking over America, but it's also causing a lot of injuries.
You'll see people play for 4, 5, 6 hours, and they'll get these overuse type injuries like tendonitis, bursitis of the shoulder, then we'll start to see rotator cuff tears.
All that and more on Radio Health Journal.
I'm Nancy Benson, host of Radio Health Journal. If you enjoy listening to Radio Health Journal, you'll also like our sister show, Viewpoints, which covers a wide array of topics from education to history to the environment. Here's a preview of what they're covering this week on Viewpoints.
Especially these young people who are being bombarded with these messages to buy Shein, to buy these products.
The multi-pronged approach to making real change in the fast fashion industry. Then,
what they're basically telling us as a speaker and a listener is, hold on, I need a lot of neuroactivation for this.
The deeper meaning behind our uhs and ums. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth this week on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
Listen to Viewpoints on your favorite radio station and subscribe and listen to shows anytime on Apple Podcasts and Google Play.
And that's Radio Health Journal for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more. And check Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify for a library of past programs. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and information about our guests at radiohealthjournal.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Radio Health Journal.
We made USAA insurance for veterans like James. When he found out how much USAA was helping members save, he said,
"It's time to switch."
We'll help you find the right coverage at the right price. USAA. What you're made of, we're made for. Restrictions apply.